How's it going, YouTubers? Should bring you guys another Digimon card game video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I sent back in a poll a while back about a video idea that I had that a friend of mine had given me, shoutouts to you, Honu, about cards to pick up before the meta shifted, before the start of a new meta. Now, with pre-release being this weekend, as of recording it is a Monday, this should be going up on Tuesday, so on Friday evening is when pre-release area starts, the pre-release time frame. Some people have it later, and I know the people in EU have already gotten it. So what this video is going to be about certain cards, usually rare or above, that either are hard to come by or that I think are very important to come to grab before the shift in the meta. I'm going to have it divvied up into 3 sections, try to put the timestamps in the description below, but it's going to be the top tier meta threats, cards that are in the high tier 1.5, maybe tier 2, maybe low tier 1 that I think will need to be picked up if you're going to play certain decks. And then there's going to be the honorable mentions slash meme slash lower tier decks that could potentially do well. Some of them are purely just memes, just to prep you for that right now. But if you're like me, you like a little bit of jank, I think it will be fun to pick up some of those cards, at least to mention some of them. So before we hop into the video, I want to say thank you guys so much for following the channel. Keep on leaving likes on all the videos. The support has been awesome recently, and I just want to say keep on hitting that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. We are going to have more BT8 content. As soon as the set drops, we're going to have more deck profiles, more rulings and stuff like that, especially the rulings as the set comes out. Keep hitting the like button on the videos and comment down below of any cards that you maybe think I missed in this video that you think are also good to go over and prep for the upcoming meta. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the first level of cards that you guys should pick up for the BT8 meta. Alright, so as you guys can see here, this is going to be the first one. This is going to be usually your tier 1 decks, the decks that I think you guys are going to see a lot, or that are going to be potentially very, very good. Like I mentioned in the previous part, these are either cards that are hard to come by. One of them isn't necessarily, it's here this Vmon, which I'll get to that in a second, but either cards that were older, so they're harder to come by, or they're just expensive cards. Maybe the market has kind of spiked up on them. So I just wanted to go over in that way. So we're going to start off here with cards for Imperial and Armor Rush together. Mainly Imperial is what I was thinking. First off, Upamon. Upamon's just a generically good draw power card. It gives you a draw when you have Digimon without a source on your opponent's side of the field. Everybody knows Upamon. I think it's starting to go back up in price again. It kind of dropped down a little bit near the end of BT7 when people were starting to like Kiaramon more, but Upamon is definitely the go-to egg for this one. Speaking of other go-to eggs, you could also decide to run the Demi Vmon. Demi Vmon is another good egg if you're gonna play, usually more so for the Imperial deck, because you're gonna have jamming more often. So some people have opted to play this card over the Upamon at the higher number at a 4-1. The reason why I mentioned this card is just because even though it is an uncommon, but it's from 1.5, so maybe this card isn't as readily available as stuff from the recent formats. So again, with Upamon, this is another card to think about picking up. Next up, again, another card from 1.5 that is going to be probably spiking in price the more this card gets played. This is going to be BT3 Vmon. Jamming, this works incredibly well in the Armor Rush deck. Maybe not so much in Imperial, but in Armor Rush, you definitely want to have the Vmon, because if you go in like Fire Rocket on your Flame Dramon, or on your Rage Dramon, or even on, you know, whatever armor you have, you swing in, it dies, the security check still lingers, and then you have Vmon with jamming underneath, so you don't have to worry about it dying to something like if you had the smaller Vmon, as long as it doesn't hit an option, that is. So this card does extremely well in Armor Rush. Some people play it in the Imperial deck, but I don't think it has as much room in the Imperial deck, because usually you're not trying to just bring out a rookie in this format. You would try to get up into like an XV or your blue, so that you could like play a Stingmon or something like that. So I think this card is better in Armor Rush, but it's still good to mention for both, because it is a harder to get card. I know it was ranging at about $10 back in the day, and it might have gotten back up to that point. I am not entirely sure on the prices of these cards. This isn't exactly right. Don't follow this price on the screen. You can usually go to TCG Player or some other site to find out exactly how much it's going to be. So Vmon's a good one. This is a sleeper card. I wanted to mention it because I think this card is incredibly good in Imperial. because you're going to go into Imperial Pyodramon so often in the Imperialmon deck and get a little bit of extra and get 2 swings in, this Vmon will be able to trigger off of that. It's also able to trigger off of the Kenan Davis if you restand off of that effect for like a Rydramon or something like that. So I think just that extra little bit of memory gain can really help extend combos. I don't think this card is as good in Armor Rush just because you're usually not hoping that you do the unsuspend thing super often. In that you would rather this be the jamming Vmon so it could still live and then you unsuspend into something else. This has the chance to die if it does multiple checks or something like that. So that's the reason I don't prefer it as much in Armor Rush. I'd rather give something with more draw power like the starter deck Vmon. But that's a newer card and I think those starter decks are still out, so I'm not going to go over those cards. That's why it's not here in this list. But I think this card is a little slept on in Imperial itself, just for that little bit of extra memory game. Another card for Imperial and Armor Rush, this is Davis. It's a generic good blue tamer. I know this card has been around for a while and people were picking it up for blue hybrid and stuff like that, but this card got a little expensive. This price of 18 right here, that is unfortunately about accurate. This card is going to go up in price, especially with 1.5 not being so opened as much. Then this card is going to get harder and harder to find until they eventually reprint it later down the line. Japan just got a full art one, but even then I don't think that will help the price too much. This is just great for Imperial. Most of the time in Imperial you're going to grab 2 cards. You might grab 2 cards depending on how your Armor Rush deck is built, but this card is just inherently good to get for your Imperial and Armor Rush style deck. So definitely try to cop these. If you can get 4, if you can get a playset just to be safe, grab a playset. But if you really only can, if you're really on a budget, you're trying not to buy a whole bunch, get at least 3. 3 is really good. I don't think you'll ever jam more than 3 in any deck. So I think 3 is probably a good number for you to stop at. Next up, we're going to go in cards for Mastamon, another tier 1 threat that could be very, very strong in the format. Right here we have Magna Angemon. This is one of the harder cards to pick up. This price of 15, if you can find this card for 15, grab it for 15, because the last time I checked, they were getting close to 30. This isn't a Market Watch video though, but it's just a little tidbits from what I've seen. This card is incredibly great in Mastamon. It being a 6k means it's a good target to bring back out with Flame Hell Scythe. You can play it off of Mastamon's effect to get a little bit of extra recovery. It's a good target if you Digivolve into another card on this list, Lady Devimon, and then you hard slam this to use the EOT effect of Gatomon to get the end of turn Jagras and bring, so you get a recover, then you get the effect of Mastamon. It's just all around incredible card for the Mastamon deck. This card needs to be run at anywhere from a 2 to a 4 of. I personally played at 3, so if you can cop 3 at least, that'd be great. But you can adjust your build based on your budget and everything. So I would say at least try to grab 2. 2, in my opinion, is the minimum. You wouldn't run a run less than that in the Mastamon build if you can afford to get your hands on this card. Speaking of another hard card from 1.5 to get, now the other thing is that Magna Angemon's from 1.0, so it's a little bit harder to get as well. 1.5 card here is Lady Devimon. This is a rare. It has had a history of spiking in the past, coming back down, spiking again. I don't know what it's at. The alt arts really have affected the price a little bit, but even those, since they come in a tournament pack, have really gone up in price a little bit too, I think. I'm not 100% certain, but Lady Devimon is an essential card to have in your Mastamon builds. I think you run this card at a 4 of, no matter what, no questions asked. If you can grab this card, get it now. It's a little bit easier if you've been playing recently, because maybe you're able to trade some of your tournament pack stuff. Maybe you've opened a few in your tournament packs at your local game store. So I would definitely try to say get your hands on this card if at all possible at a 4 of. It's incredible for the Mastamon deck, just be able to Digivolve for 1 for Graceful Charity, effectively drawing 3 cards, and then it sets you up for your trash by discarding 2, and then you get to EOT again, like with the Magna Angemon, or maybe you have something like Angelwoman from the starter decks or something like that. Just an incredible card. Definitely get your hands on 3, or 3 at minimum, I guess, but 4 if you really can. Now this one is going to be a little bit of a hard boy to come by. Not a lot of BT5 has been opened up, but it's still a little bit more readily available than older stuff like BT4 and before. But this is going to be Omnimon Zort Defeat. This card is incredible in Mastamon. If you can find 4, depending on how you're having your build, get 4. But you see this price tag down here at 50, that's about accurate. He dropped down a long time ago to like 30 when he wasn't seeing as much play, or like Security Control wasn't doing as well. but of course he's spiked back up. A lot of hype around Mastamon. He's going to go back up again. 50 might be good. He might drop. He might go up. You never know. But if you can pick this card up, it is really good. It has a lot of synergy. If it comes out, it triggers Mastamon's all turns effect to pop something of less than, of equal to or less level than a played Digimon by an effect. He's played by the effect out of security, so you get to pop basically anything on the board. Good on deletion effect. You know, always just a good target if you want to Digivolve your Mastamon into this to get rid of a pesky Tamer or something like that. This card, if you can grab 2, if you have the budget and you can grab at least 2, 2 is great. I think 2, depending on how you have your list built, can work perfectly fine, anywhere from 2 to 4, like a lot of those cards, but I would try to get your hands on at least 2. It's a great boss monster, a great security effect, just fits Mastamon all around. Speaking of another card for Mastamon, we have Chaos Mode. This is an incredible card just for the combo of Mastamon to be able to go into your Lady Devimon, get your draw discard, you get to discard a Chaos Mode, you hard play your Magna or your other level 5 yellow card, DNA Digivolve, go into Masty, go into, put this from your trash into your security, play it, you get to pop any level 5 or below Digimon via his Mastimon's effect, and then you get to delete a level 6 or lower or a Tamer via Lucimon's effect. So this Lucimon Chaos Mode is very good. You see right here, this price is actually about right, 25. They may have dropped back down to 20 at one point, but anywhere from 20 to 30 is kind of where he's been bouncing. Good card to pick up as of now, because I think depending on how you have your builds, that I keep on saying 2 to 4. I think 2 is a good point, but if you want to run heavy security control, like you're going to run a lot of Dead or Alives, then you might want to try to pick up 4 of this. I personally think 2 is enough. If maybe you've opened some from your BT8 or BT7 stuff, hold on to this card. I think 2 is really good if you plan on playing Mastamon. Now the last card to go over for Mastamon, this is going to be BT3 Demi-Meramon. This card came out in 1.5. It's another good card to mention because of that. Just because a lot of 1.5 isn't being opened. I don't know if this $6 price is correct, but this card is a must in my opinion. Purple base seems to be very, very strong for Mastamon, and the ability to get a little bit of draw and discard off of the Demi-Meramon Inheritable is very, very strong and helps facilitate getting your stuff in trash and getting a little bit of draw power as well. Demi-Meramon's just all around good card. He spiked up to like $3 or $4 at one point. I don't think he's at 6 right now, but you really never know. I think you absolutely need this card for Mastamon in my opinion. There's not really another egg that quite does it like Demi-Meramon does, and it's just it's one you want to try to grab onto and try to get them before they spike up in price in case they do. Like I said, 1.5 been out of print for a little bit. Next up, we're going to go to another deck that in some of the online proxy tournaments, I haven't seen a whole lot of representation, but this is going to be, overall, this is Alphamon. This is mainly for X-Antibody in general. I think you should, you know, a lot of the X-Antibody stuff came out in BT6 or BT7, so I'm not going to really go over some of the other cards that came out, but because those are a little bit more available. But you should still get your hands on it if you really like X-Antibody style of play, big stack decks, doing a whole bunch of OTK style things. Alphamon is very good. This Alphamon in particular works really well because we're getting Oriyumon in BT8, and this allows your Alphamon to unsuspend at the end of the attack. So Oriyumon helps facilitate Alphamon to get you an OTK if you're able to get some good sources underneath. So this Alphamon in particular is the one I showed to represent it, because this is the one you're really going to need. You can still run Duragoromon, you can still run a lot of level 6s in that deck in particular, based on your playstyle and everything, but if you want to go for like the OTK or Oriyumon shenanigans, try to cop at least 3 copies of this Alphamon. He was as low as like 15 a while back. You see, ever since the hype's been getting up there, he's been getting up a little bit more in price. He's encroaching back on 30. Altart's getting even higher than that. So I would try to see if you can't grab yourself 3 of these, because you're really going to want it if you're going to play X-Antibody with the Oriyumon support. And the last X-Antibody card to really mention that works well in X-Antibody, that may also be a little hard to get, is Tsunorizumon. This card is just really good because you can, it's not the, you know, you always want to have X-Antibody stuff in your sources, but at the same time, Tsunorizumon is a good backup because it does give your 13k extra security attack, and it can also give all your black Digimon with 13k piercing if it's just on the field. So all around good card. They did get a little bit of a reprint in that buy box promo to get the little storage box. No, not every store got that, but if you can really, that helped this availability a little bit. Sure, you had to pay $100 to get a box, but maybe you got enough stuff from your box to help reasonably get a hold of this card as well and make a little bit of money back on it. or save you some money if you were just to buy this outright. So if it's still around 30 or 40 bucks, sorry about that, but this card is really, really good in X Antibody. So, but that's going to do it for like my tier 1 prediction cards. Now I'm going to go ahead and hop into either the lower end of tier 1, 1.5 tier 2 cards that you should get that might be a little bit harder to get your hands on. So this one's going to be noticeably different or lower. I guess it's not really too bad, but this is going to be a lot of personal opinion on this one. Now, I think Black War Greymon is going to be a solid deck, so I wanted to go over some cards that maybe you might not have as many at your locals, depending on when your locals started, or maybe when you started, how many you have currently, depending on how long you've been playing. The first card to mention, again, most of these are going to be promos or rares, but a few of them might be harder to find cards, like starter deck cards as well. Marcus Damon, he's a rare from BT4. I think he facilitates it very well for the War Greymon deck, the Black War Greymon deck, because you're always swinging in with a Greymon usually, so you get to gain the extra memory. Depending on how you're going to play the deck, you could also say that BT1 Tai, another harder to get card, even harder to get than Marcus. Marcus isn't too hard because I think not many people were playing it as often. It was a fan favorite deck, but not as a high meta tier deck, other than outside of, say, like Agumon and BT6. So if you want to get your hands on some Tai, that's going to be a little bit harder to get a hold of. If you can, that's BT1 Tai. Let me bring him up real fast just to kind of at least show him off for those people that may not know. It is this Tai right here that gives your red Digimon with 4 more sources, security attack +1. So this card works pretty well as depending on your playstyle, but as well, I think Marcus is going to be another good one to grab. Again, another card, this was a fan favorite. This one more so to mention if you want to bling out your deck. Depending on when you started playing, BT5 may not have been a set that you opened much of, but this is usually it kind of went down as a bulk rare. You can see here even this the gouge price only has it at 82 cents. It'd be nice if it's about like $1 a piece. You can scoop up 3 or 4 of these, you'll work pretty fine. If you want your alt arts, you might want to pick them up before they spike in price, in case like Black War Greymon does incredibly well in this format. So definitely a card to pick up if you don't have many copies of it. Another card that has gone up in price a little bit now, this is Promo Agumon. This was originally in the box topper pack from BT1, and then got a Digifest reprint. So if you've been to Digifest and you got a bunch of Digifest packs, maybe you have plenty of these. But this is just, if this card has Greymon in its name, it gets plus 2k. So it helps get your War Greymon, or your Black War Greymons, or your War Greymons, depending on how you're building the deck, that little bit of extra oomph to maybe swing over something or survive a security check or something like that. This is just all around good card for BT8 Black War Greymon. This one, these next ones are going to be kind of honorable mentions. Some people could consider them Mimi, some people could consider them like legit, but this is going to be Black War Greymon from the promo packs that came out in BT4, I believe. Digiburst 2 on Suspend this Digimon. This could potentially allow you to OTK depending on how you've built your Black War Greymon stack. So this is a good card to pick up. It's not super expensive because it didn't see a whole lot of play competitively, but you never know, and this card could really help facilitate, like maybe somebody has a lot of success with this card OTKing with Black War Greymon, and this is a good backup, or they prioritize this with a new support, and maybe this card becomes a lot more useful. So definitely keep this card in mind, especially if it's cheap currently. Now this is another one this one is more of a me thing. I think this card could be very, very strong in the Black War Greymon deck. If you play it as a control deck, more of a go face deck. Now, is that really going to be the best thing for the format? I don't know. There's a good chance not, but at the same time, if it does work well as a control deck with some of the options to delete stuff on attack, maybe Digivolve and delete stuff, this is a very strong card. Now, we don't worry about the on-play effect because it's just if your opponent has a Digimon with 10k or more, you reduce the play cost by 6, so you can hard play him for 7, but he has a really strong win attacking effect if you attack your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, unsuspend this Digimon. If you have that promo Agumon that I mentioned earlier, you go into this guy, he has Greymon in his name, so he's 14k, because the Agumon doesn't specify it has to be red. So he's 14k, and you can basically clear a board. If you raise up your War Greymon, or the Metal Greymon from BT8 that lets you attack unsuspended Digimon, this win attacking effect isn't once per turn, so you could potentially just clear a board out with this effect alone. And that's very strong, especially if your opponent isn't thinking about it. So this card has kind of spiked up in price. You'll notice here it's about 11 is what this mentions. That's actually kind of accurate. I picked one up for around 10 or 15. And the alt art has gone up. I don't know if this card is going to do super, super well, but there's potential it has. the potential it has, I should say, is very high, and it could work depending on if a control-based version of the new Black War Greymon deck sees success over here in North America, NA in general English. And then we have War Greymon. This is a card that has seen a little bit of play here and there. This is BT1 War Greymon. I wanted to mention it because it is a BT1 card. It's a 1.0 card. It's hard to find. That's another thing to mention about this Black War Greymon here. It is a BT2. It's a secret rare from 1.5. Again, harder to find older cards. Same with this. He used to be cheap. You'll notice here he's put his $5. The last time I checked, he had spiked all the way up to 15. So people are really thinking this is a good side Evo to go into for their Black War Greymon decks. He gives security attack and he has an ADP effect just built in. So it's very strong card potentially. If it surprises your opponent, it really could, just like the promo War Greymon, just to come in for an extra couple of checks, and if they're playing Blitz Omni, then boom, you go for that last check. You could get an extra check out of it too, because this War Greymon just gives the security attack on Digivolve for the turn, so you're able to get like 2 checks in a piece for this War Greymon and the Omni. So just keep that in mind. Again, harder to find card. Speaking to possibly harder to find card, this is Patamon from Starter Deck 3. Hasn't seen a lot of play recently, but it's a good option if you're going to play something like Yellow Rapidmon Hybrid. You have to run a yellow base so you can Digivolve in a Rapidmon effectively. I should say you don't have to, but effectively you would. And this gets you a memory whenever you drop an opponent's Digimon to DP to 0 and it gets deleted. So that makes the Rapidmon, which evolves on top of regular yellow cards for 4, kind of expensive. It makes it a lot cheaper by effectively making it 3 as long as they can take out 1 Digimon. So I think this Patamon could go up. This $12 price is wild. I think that's probably for one of the like alt arts from the store championships or something like that, but I don't know how much this card is, but it might be hard because a lot of people who like their yellow hybrids, their control yellow cards, or Rapidmon in general and want to make use of it, this is a very good card to use. So maybe scoop some of these up, especially you can find them for cheap if they are over several dollars a piece. This is a card that I think a lot of people slept on. It's a BT1 card, so it might be a little bit harder to come by again. Seraphimon, you get the extra security attack if you have 3 or more security, and you get to recover just on Digivolve. There's no stipulations, as long as you Digivolve. He is small, but he adds that little bit of aggression that I think, like Yellow Hybrid, with the control amount, the control effects that the Rapidmon gives could be very useful, because you're able to clear a little bit of board with your Rapidmon that you raise up, and then you can recover up with this guy. He gives you some checks. Rapidmon has Armor Purge. So I think in tandem, this will work really well just to keep that recovery engine going with Jet Sylphimon, and then able to put on a little bit of aggression. 10k is a little sad. He might die to an easy check, but at the same time, he might not, and it really does put on the pressure. Your opponent will have to answer this. So I think this card is a little bit of a sleeper card. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm not focusing enough on the meta. Maybe people have already been scooping this card up, but at the same time, I think it's a good card to scoop up. Now, this is a card that people have been seeing a bunch. Yellow Hybrid's been around, but again, this card is a BC1 card. It's spiking up in price, 10 or 12 bucks a piece. This says 12 right here, so that might actually be close. This is TK. He lets you find a card in your security and take it. As long as it's yellow, you get to recover. So he's a memory tamer, gives you security knowledge, good target to have multiple of if you want to evolve on top of it for your hybrid if you have a couple. So I think this card is good to pick up. Same thing can be said about TK Kari from BT6, but that's a BT6 card. It's not super old. I think it's still in print pretty decently. Most stores tend to have a decent amount of BT6, so I think that card's not as much to list on here. But at the same time, I think this card in particular is good to mention. Again, I don't know how well these cards will do in the meta. I don't think these decks will be they'll be around, but I don't know if they'll be as powerful as some people may think, or as I've done in testing so far, but it's been early testing. Format's super young. We've only been doing proxies and stuff like that. I'm sure it'll really pop off once the format gets here and we get the physical cards in hand. So with all that being said, that's going to be our middle tier stuff. Let's go to the lower tier stuff, honorable mentions and jank, because I love me some jank. All right, everyone, and on to our final bit. This is honorable mentions, lower tier or potential tier, whatever you want to call it, jank tier for some of it. Just kind of wanted to throw it all together. Didn't want to make the video too long. So what I wanted to bring up specifically, because I enjoyed this deck, I posted a deck profile on the channel, is Blue Metal Garurumon from BT1. This deck has the potential to really pop off, do some fun things, recover, bounce back, make a big board state, all the fun stuff that I like the board to do. Swing out, make 2 bodies, EOT Jagras, all the shenanigans this deck can potentially pull it off. This Metal Garurumon is a harder to find. It's not expensive right now, but if the deck makes some showings, then it could be expensive, you know, because it's a BT1 card, so it's not super easy to come by. So I think this card is a good thing to mention. Again, BT1 card, Garurumon. This is an uncommon. It's not super expensive to come by, but it might be a little bit harder if you have to order them to get them in to play the deck, because, you know, the cards aren't readily available if you don't have a lot of 1.0, or your store didn't get a lot of 1.0. So I think these cards are good to mention. Same thing with Leopardmon. It's a I think this came out in 1.0. It's a BT3 card, but it was one of the few BT3 cards to come out in 1.0. It's an honorable mention for that deck. You know, he's kind of gone up. I mean, he's, you know, a couple bucks, but it's the same thing as the Metal Garurumon. Not a lot of play, may not do anything. Leopardmon in particular may not do as much as the Metal Garurumon, but they're harder to find cards, so I thought I would bring them up. These are more so honorable mention cards as well, more so than the deck. That for the Metal Garurumon stuff. This is Blitz Greymon. This is a 1.5 card, a BT3 card from 1.5. This is a Digivolve on Red Black Greymon. So it has regular piercing, and it has D-Digivolve 2 when you Digivolve. So that could really make use of the other D-Digivolve mechanic in your Metal Greymon effect with the Black War Greymon deck. You go into your Metal Greymon, you D-Digivolve 1, you go into this, you know, because if you have a Memory Tamer and a Nokia, you can potentially go into this without passing turn, or you could go Greymon, Metal Greymon this, you know, you pass your opponent over to 4 memory, but if you can potentially get rid of their big stack, maybe they have a level 5 or level 6 that you don't want to deal with, or a lot of sources underneath, maybe they Jogris or something, you can bring that all the way back down with this effect like Blitz Greymon or something like that. So Blitz Greymon is a potential card that could see play as another alternate level 6 to use in the Black War Greymon deck. I don't know if it'll see a lot of play, but there is potential in the card, and it is a 1.5 card, so it's not super readily available. Another 1.5 card that could see some play in Armor Rush only. I don't think this card is going to see a ton of play. This $16 price, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe the winter pack from TP4 or something like that. But this is XVmon. I've seen some people mess around with it, and it potentially works really well with the deck. It unsuspends one of your level 4s. So if you have another Vmon on the field that maybe you had to hard play, or maybe you can't really make use of, maybe your guy didn't armor purge when you wanted him to, so you can't Digivolve onto the armor purged Vmon to use Ken and Davis to restand. XVmon is a notable card. It's a rare from that set, so it was a big proponent in Rookie Rush back in the day, the yellow-green Rookie Rush, and I definitely think it could find a place in Armor Rush. It takes up a spot. Maybe you're not going to run a lot of it, but if it is a few bucks, you might want to try to pick them up now, because if this card really pops off, there's a few people I know who love this card, some diehard Rookie Rush players that may try to make use of this card, and it could go up, and it could see a lot of play. Maybe you play people that aren't expecting it, and it really could take them by surprise. So I think this EXVmon is a good one to come by. If you can get your hands on the tournament winner packs, I think they were in the winner packs, then maybe cop a few of those just in case this card pops off. It might be worth something. Maybe you can sell them later on if you want to, or maybe you want to have a blinged out deck, and those are technically the highest rarity. They might not have any shine to them, but they are an alternate art. Next up is going to be stuff for the Shibamon. This is going to kind of be like the Metal Garurumon stuff, honorable decks that could be in the lower tier to mid tier. But Shibamon is a fan favorite deck just because of the mechanic. I know people that like the Pulsemon line, or if you're a green diehard fan, Shibamon is your chance to kind of come back into the meta. A lot of people crap on Shibamon. It might not do anything in the format, but if you are going to play it, then I think Sarismon is a good combo card with it, because you're going to try to Digisorption. Sure, Sarismon lets you suspend your opponent's Digimon to do your Digisorption, but I think Digisorption support is going to work really well with with the Shibamon cards, because it's an easy way to suspend your own guys, especially if you don't have the Shibamon option card that I'm not going to try to pronounce off the top of my head off of memory, because I know I'm going to screw it up. So this one works really well. I think Sarismon is a good option to maybe go into. You know, it's Digisorption 3, so you can use that, suspend one of your guys, and maybe you can suspend down your opponent's side of the field and then clear board. You know, maybe bring Sarismon control back with Shibamon as a side package. That's a little bit more meme worthy. But if you're going to bring in stuff to suspend and unsuspend, Argamon is a potential card that can see worth. This $45 price tag is for the alternate art from Event Pack 2. Don't worry about that one. But this is just whenever it becomes unsuspended during your unsuspend phase, gain a memory, so it helps you gain a little bit extra memory at the start of your turn. I don't know if this is necessarily better than the new BB-Mon because you get to be a little bit bigger on your opponent's turn or something like that because you are susceptible to being suspended, but you can maybe scoop up this Argamon just as another egg, potentially. And it's a 1.5 card, so it's a little bit harder to come by. Same thing with this Sarismon, 1.5 cards, you may not see a lot. Speaking of 1.5 cards that could be a little meme tier, could actually work really well, Bancho Stingmon. There's going to be a decent amount of 12Ks in the format, so Bancho Stingmon having the piercing, being able to get that extra 3 security checks in, you know, plus 7K in security attack plus 2, you know, that's a big 16K boy that's going to check 3 security. So very strong potential in the format. You could even throw it into stuff like Imperial. So I don't sleep on this card. I think, especially if sideboards are ever a thing in any of the events during the format, this card could be very strong. It is just an uncommon, but if you want to try to scoop it up now, I definitely suggest grabbing them. Next up, this is an all-around show-off card. It's a vanilla. Why am I showing you a vanilla? Myotismon. People like the Myotismon art's awesome. Like both the regular art, the alt art in particular. It's incredible looking. Some people are going to play Myotismon. If you want to, just go ahead and pick up your Myotismon stuff now, because, you know, some of it's older, some of it's newer, but a lot of it's from 1.5, like the old Venom Myotismon. This is a 1.0 card. The Mummymon and Arukenimon, that's all 1.5 stuff, so maybe it's not as easy to come by. It's dirt cheap, but, you know, if you want to have some fun, grab your Myotismon stuff. You know, it's good stuff to pick up if you want to have a little bit of lower tier, maybe fun deck to just play in the next meta. Who knows, maybe somebody pops off with Myotismon. It could be a good investment. Last but not least, Rust Tyrannomon. Taiga could be mentioned in this. BT1, I think it's a BT1. It's a rare jamming Tyrannomon. All of that because we are getting Master Tyrannomon. Some people are hyping up the Tyrannomon support. That may be playing that for the BT8 meta. So just scoop up your Rust Tyrannomon. See, I don't know if this $3 price is actually accurate at all. He can't be too much, but maybe there's some hype about the Tyrannomon support. Maybe he comes up in price a little bit. So definitely grab these if you're a Tyrannomon stan. Maybe you want to bring your Christmas Tyrannomon deck back from 1.0. Bring it back out. Show off your Rust Tyrannomons. I don't think Rust had an alternate, correct me if I'm wrong, but if he did, you know, you have all that. It's a fun deck. I don't know if it'll be incredible, but it's definitely a fun deck. You can make some use out of it. So Rust Tyrannomon is a good go-to, good honorable mention meme tier deck to go over. So, but with all that being said, guys, that'll be the end of the video. That's going to be all I have for you today on some cards to pick up for the meta. You know, maybe I left some things off. If I did, be sure to leave a comment down below about some other cards, notable cards, meme tier, tier 1 worthy, tier 2 worthy, whatever you want to think might be reasonable to pick up for the upcoming meta that isn't just like BT6, BT... or like common, uncommon, maybe even rare for BT6, BT7, maybe some super rares from the previous ones and stuff like that, or hard to find cards. You know, just throw them down in the comments below just to let other people know that have seen this stuff to pick up and they might want to know a few other things to pick up. Just let them know. I'm always glad to hear other people's opinions. But all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you did enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have more BT8 content, like I mentioned. We'll have more rulings, more gameplay once I get some physical cards and my local starts popping off again with some BT8 stuff. We're gonna have some new deck profiles once I get my hands on those cards. I don't want to make too many more deck profiles, especially now that pre-release is around the corner, but when I get physical cards, that really puts me into the lab, gets my brain turning, and I really like to deck build. So we'll have some of that coming up in the future, so stay tuned. Like I said, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you know when my new videos go live, and until next time, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun at pre-release.